Welcome back to the Shadows. Tonight, we step into a story where the silence is louder than any scream. We look into the life of Kennedy, a woman who didn't just live in a house. She lived in a fortress of love, or so she thought. Her husband, Mark, was the definition of perfection. To the outside world, he was the attentive husband, the successful architect, the man who remembered every anniversary and every favorite flower. But perfection is often a mask. And as we know, the brightest lights always cast the longest, darkest shadows. It was a rainy Tuesday in October, a day that should have been ordinary. Kennedy was doing what she always did, caring for the small details of their life. She picked up Mark's charcoal blazer to take it to the dry cleaners. As she reached into the inner pocket, her fingers brushed against something small, something crumpled. It was a thermal paper receipt from the Velvet Room, the most expensive restaurant in the city. Date: last Tuesday. Time: 8:30 p.m. The same night, Mark claimed he was trapped in an emergency board meeting, stressed and hungry. But the receipt told a different story. 2 aged ribeye steaks, a bottle of vintage 1998 Cabernet, a celebration for 2. But it wasn't the food that shattered Kennedy's heart. It was the scent that rose from that small piece of paper as she held it to her nose. A faint, lingering aroma of midnight jasmine. It was a heavy, floral scent. A scent that didn't belong to Kennedy. It belonged to someone she knew, someone she shared coffee with, someone she called a sister. Kennedy didn't scream. She didn't throw plates or call him in a rage. Instead, she felt a cold, calculating stillness settle over her soul. She realized that to catch a monster, she had to become a ghost. She spent the next 3 days in total silence, observing. She watched her 3 best friends, Sarah, Maya, and Chloe, with the eyes of a predator. Kennedy watched Sarah, the dependable one. Sarah had been her maid of honor. They had shared secrets since university. But now, Kennedy noticed the way Sarah gripped her wine glass whenever Mark's name was mentioned. She noticed the new, expensive Midnight Jasmine candle burning in Sarah's guest bathroom. Then there was Maya, the quiet poet. Maya was always the sensitive soul, the one who cried at sad movies. But now, Kennedy saw the way Maya's eyes darted toward the floor every time they made eye contact. Was it guilt, or was it something darker? And finally, Chloe, the life of every party. Chloe had recently been struggling with her finances after losing her job. Yet she was suddenly carrying a limited edition designer handbag. Where did the money come from? Mark? One of them was the thief. One of them had stepped into Kennedy's bed and stolen the air from her lungs. Kennedy knew she couldn't just ask for the truth. In their world, the truth was a currency they didn't trade in. She needed to take them somewhere isolated, somewhere where the masks would have to fall off. She planned a girl's getaway, a hike to Blackwood Peak. It was the place where Mark had proposed to her 5 years ago, a place of beautiful memories that she was about to turn into a graveyard for their friendship. Let's go watch the sunset, Kennedy told them, one last time as sisters. The drive to the mountain was suffocating. The air inside the car was thick with forced laughter and empty stories. Kennedy sat behind the wheel, her eyes fixed on the road, but her mind was in the rearview mirror, watching the 3 faces she had trusted for a decade. As they stepped onto the trail of Blackwood Peak, the weather began to turn. The wind picked up, howling through the pines like a wounded animal. The higher they climbed, the thinner the air became. The trail was steep, jagged, and unforgiving. "Why are you so quiet today, Ken?" Chloe asked, stopping to wipe the sweat from her forehead. Her voice was light, but her eyes were searching. Kennedy just turned and smiled, a slow, thin smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm just taking it all in, Chloe," Kennedy whispered. "The view, the fresh air, the absolute, brutal honesty of nature. Up here, you can't hide who you are. The mountain sees everything." The tension tightened like a noose with every step. By the time they reached the summit, the sun was beginning its final descent. The sky wasn't just orange. It was the color of a fresh bruise, deep purples, angry reds, and a fading, sickly yellow. The golden hour had arrived. But for one of them, it was the final hour of their secret life. They sat on the very edge of the cliff, their legs dangling over the 500-foot drop. The wind was so loud now that they had to lean in to hear each other. Kennedy reached into her pocket and pulled out the crumpled receipt. She let the wind catch it for a moment before gripping it tight. "Mark and I had a very long talk last night," Kennedy said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the wind like a razor. The three women froze. "He told me everything," Kennedy continued, her gaze moving from face to face. "He told me about the Tuesday nights. He told me about the champagne. He even told me about the Midnight Jasmine. But he was too much of a coward to tell me which one of you it was. He wanted me to guess. He thought it would be a fun game for us." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah's knuckles turned white as she gripped her water bottle. Maya began to shake, her eyes filling with tears that didn't look like regret. They looked like pure, unadulterated terror. Kennedy stood up, looking down at them like a judge delivering a sentence. "I'm not here for a confession. I'm here because I want the world to see what a sister looks like when she's caught." She pointed to a small, professional-grade camera hidden inside a hollowed-out log just feet away. "We've been live for the last 10 minutes, girls. To Mark's office, to your families, to the entire town. Every nervous look, every trembling hand. It's all on the record now. What happened after the sun went down is still a matter of police records and town legends. Some say Kennedy simply walked back to her car and drove away, leaving them to find their way down in the pitch-black cold. Others say the mountain took a sacrifice that night. When the police arrived the next morning, only one person was missing. And Kennedy? She was back in her kitchen, making a single cup of coffee, finally breathing air that didn't smell like Midnight Jasmine. She was finally free. The recording ended. But the nightmare for the others? It was only just beginning. Sleep well, if you can.